What we have read is that everybody is verbosing 0.5% increase in the budget, but not looking holistically in terms of what the budget presents to the country. The fact that budget had to be delayed for some time in order to readjust and have a suitable balance, that shows that the executive have applied its mind, and that's what really is important to us. The budget will be passed working with everybody in government, and the ANC is prepared to talk and engage with all other political parties within the government of national unity and even beyond. And we have always been and will always be open to talking to everybody. But talking to everybody does not mean that we are submissive. We look at the facts in terms of what people put on the table, and then we engage. Talking past each other in the media is not engagement. Let's deal with the facts of what people are talking about, including the alternatives of what they want. We have looked at what the DA talks about, which overall to us is blocking transformation. We have equally looked into the question of the budget itself in terms of the balance and what needed to be done other than VAT. For a moment, if we have to pause, we know that the DA would have accepted 0.5% increase if we backtracked on transformation legislation like Bella Act, Expropriation Act, NHI. And in this particular instance, we don't think that those are policy matters that you must use the budget to basically block transformation. And that's what is important. Two, if you talk about the fact that the 0% increase of the VAT affect the poor, in our manifesto, even now, we know that this does not apply to basic essentials for the poor, like bread, fruits, milk, eggs, and maize. And you can call it Mohodu, that is your own thing. If we have to come, we've got to build infrastructure of highways, good infrastructure around the country. But at the same time, we do not have the financial resources to do that. And then they will introduce e-tolls, probably without broader engagement, and people boycott e-tolls. But even people who are not affected, those who are basically working class, like using taxis, buses, and all of that, are actually part and parcel of the general strike against the e-tolls. But those who can afford, at the end of the day, their voices become voluminous to the point where in which even the poor and the working class are actually mobilized and believe that the e-tolls affect them negatively, when in the bigger scheme of things they did not. And we have passed on that. Now we are very clear that it is important to engage. 2% was high. Government have actually said 0.5 increase over a period of time, and this, depending on the response of the economy, will obviously over time diminish, and that's what it's important. Now, We are ready to engage with everybody if they have alternatives. On the corporate tax, which is high, it is very clear that if you were to increase, you are basically take people out of jobs over a period of time. And what is important about this budget in balancing the act is fundamentally about preserving and creating jobs and making it a point that the economy grows without compromising spending on social transformation and basic needs. So we need more teachers. We need to ensure that as much as we need more teachers, we need more healthcare workers, infrastructure, and so on. We expand on the SRD with a view that over time this will be changed into basic income grant. So if we're to do away with all of those, what will actually happen to the country's agenda of transformation? It will obviously regress. And we're prepared to talk to everybody. That includes the SACP as the ANC on our stance of supporting the budget. We think that the minister and cabinet have come up with a balancing act to ensure that we have a budget for the country, and we are ready to talk to anyone in the framework of the GNU and beyond. Are we EWN? Are we talking to other political parties? That has not been scaled up. We've been talking to the DA in the framework of government and leaders of political parties talking. That door is not closed, but we are very clear that 0.5% has not been an easy decision, but at the end of the day, something that we can work with going forward to recover. Why not taxing the wealthy? That has been addressed. That is happening already. News 24, are we willing to consider other proposals? I mean, budget had to be postponed for 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks, to consider all the proposals. So all has been done to consider everything on the table. That has been proposed by political parties and everybody. The minister engaged with the DA, engaged with the workers, engaged with us, as well as the ANC. I don't know about other political parties and our tripartite alliance and so on. So I can't speak for the SACP and their stance. But we're having a bilateral this coming Monday. So we are ready also to engage with our allies on these matters. I've heard some of the proposals we've had, like cutting cabinet. The question is, will that address the question of the middle gap in terms of what we want to achieve and what we are facing as a country as we pass this particular budget? It is very easy for anyone to say cut cabinet and all of that, which is fine, but we have been cutting even in the austerity budgets that have been implemented. This cutting have been going on. I mean, the cutting will not be new, except that in the GNU we have seen the increase of cabinet, which the intended goal was to decrease the numbers of cabinet members. I was in government. Ministers have been affected by this cut. Blue lights is not money, it's cars. Blue light is just a traffic control measure, and it must not be abused. In government, when I left, government had cut on the expenditure of cars. Ministers used to drive cars in the range of 1 million. It was cut to 500,000, and so on. Packs like credit cards were taken away probably 15 years ago, and they are not there. Flying arrangement, ministers are flying economy. That was cut as well from flying business locally, domestically. You only fly business international. There were cuts from first class to business. Also, if you fly for 10 hours, you're supporting staff in terms of numbers of international trips where you find that departmental staff were flying up and down to different meetings. That was cut. Ministers only approve the most important trips internationally. In terms of household, ministers were not paying. Now, if you own 2 properties, Pretoria and Cape Town, you pay part of where you stay. So these packs people are making noise about, ministers are on a gravy train and all of that. That's not the case. I was there, I saw it myself, and I was traveling economy when I was Minister of Transport. I didn't have a credit card. And the house I was staying in Cape Town was paid for. I didn't have a house in Pretoria. I was staying in my own property in Johannesburg. So this thing of gravy train, the car I was driving was less than $1 million in government that I was driving. Probably the R1 million car that I'm driving is in the ANC. That's where the gravy train is. But when I was minister in government, I didn't, except when I was Minister of Police. And equally, that was the police budget. But most ministers, they had to negotiate backwards because safety for people driving long distances and all of that with these government cars, doing government work, all those considerations. From the days of the late Tito Mboweni, when he was wearing those shoes, people did not understand. What do those shoes communicate? They were communicating one thing, that we're in a difficult period economically, and our expenditure in terms of government, particularly on things like those, we must not want to live, in a particular state, whereas we're saying everybody must sacrifice. Now, we go into this VAT increase, which we will not be having it at all, and we must work very hard to get out of this particular situation over a period of time. But if certain things are not done, we will not be in a position to fund the basic needs of our people. And that's where we differ fundamentally with the DA. And that's where we say to the DA that this pro-poor verbosity they are accentuating is far from the truth. We know what they stand for and what they want in terms of the budget. And they've raised those things in our discussions, formal and informal. And we have engaged back and forth on these particular matters. But we're still open to engagement with the DA. Newsroom, I don't know whether I've covered you. You're talking about where does it put us with GNU. Look, GNU is GNU. I mean, we're committed to the GNU, Government of National Unity. The fact that there are differences around the question of the budget, it's important that we must find each other and actually continue to engage. We have not closed the door. So as the ANC, as a party, we are ready to engage with everybody on these particular matters. So we are quite keen to engage with everybody. ANC, in terms of the SAPC, you are saying that we were firm on the question of no VAT increase of 2%. We raised that particular matter, and it was reviewed to 0.5%. And that's what has actually happened here. And it's a position that we have understood that is not cast in stone, and it will change over a period of time, given the difficulties that we are facing. SACP have answered that question. By-elections, well, it's by-elections. It's Richmond. We win some, we lose some. MK party have won that particular one, but we also, our numbers have also increased, but we have not lost the municipality. So we're still in charge. So we will continue to work very hard and look at this situation and analyze correctly what actually happened. There's a lot of positive energy coming out of KwaZulu-Natal, and that is quite encouraging. Lunga, if the budget doesn't pass, what does it mean? We hope we don't reach that. It means we would have defied everything, including national interest. Budget must be passed. Government must pass the budget to service the people. If it doesn't, then it will be a big crisis for South Africa and for our country. I don't think we'll even reach that stage. Reviewing working with everybody, you don't review working with people because you differ. Everyone came here on his own accord. And if they feel this does not work for them, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But government must continue to work and work together going forward. What you see here in terms of this budget, it's people who say VAT must not be touched. It touches on the poor, but we have mitigated the VAT situation in reality to address the interest of the poor, particularly cost of living for the poor, and with zero-rated essentials. There are those who say, we don't want VAT, but they say don't increase any tax at all. That is a conservative posture of the Democratic Alliance and all those who agree with them. They don't just say VAT, they say everything across. We are balancing the act in relation to VAT, which corporate tax have already been increased to limits that will be unacceptable and can actually bring us to a cul-de-sac of a job bloodbath in this country. Income tax and all of those things have been considered by the Treasury in terms of the briefing that we got. And so those who say cut on spending, we have also gone further and said we agree on spending review, which the president was already looking at in the past and together with Treasury and all of that. So what other political parties, in particular the DA wants, they want to, but they can participate in that, which we agree. All other matters are policy options. Were negotiated and were passed in Parliament. And if constitutionally these policy options have been signed and they are an act and all of that, the fact of the matter is that they can only be overturned if ever the Constitutional Court says so, or any other court in this particular instance. They've gone through all the processes. The DA and whoever is opposed to this, NHI, Bella, and all of that, they were defeated in that process. We have gone through the process of extending for some time to find a way of understanding what is the sticky point of difference. And we could not come to that, and this had to be signed. Now, to want to use the budget to say you must not move in this direction. If you move, we want support. um, uh, uh, and matters that are policy in nature that have been passed by the Parliament of South Africa, I think is disingenuous in a way. So issues can be looked at, including the budget, but there are fundamental things that will not make us move as the party, as the ANC, that will not support. We will not support that cut spending on, for instance, employment of teachers, SRD, and all of those, and so on. Yes, VAT, but cushion the poor in that process. That's what we are for as the African National Congress, and that is the basis of us supporting this budget. I hope I've answered everything.
No, just the impact of these consecutive VAT increases on the ANC's fiscal prospects in 2026.
We have a budget before us that have relieved people, in particular, eating direct in their pockets, like fuel levy, that is addressed loud and clear in the budget, and then 0.5% increase mitigate the cost of living by zero rating and expanding the bucket of zero rated essentials, which affect the poor. Our prospects will increase if the economy performs and people work. And you must also look at things broadly speaking, that the cost of electricity in South Africa, if you were to talk about corporate tax and all of that, those big companies which employ millions of our people, how are they actually going to be affected, which already by now, as it is explained by Treasury, the tax imposition on them is already high. So the question is not taxing the poor. As much as you come with VAT, if, for instance, I go and buy ice cream, it's because I can afford. It's a luxury to eat an ice cream, Magnum or whatever, I'm sorry to mention. But it means I can afford. If I buy a car and all of that, it means to a certain extent I can afford and all of that. But we say zero-rated essentials that we know, for instance, people need bread. If bread was to cost 1,000, it will affect our people directly. So this situation must and will improve over time. And we will not be here as we project going forward. So difficult as some of these decisions are, but they have to be taken to enable us to move forward. Now, the fact that there's a point of difference among us and political parties is most welcome, but let's engage with everyone. I've seen many people in Parliament. You insult people's input by saying that they were waffling. I don't think that is. You engage with every input, and you can only make a determination that a political party is waffling if you challenge directly what they've actually been saying. Even DA, they still believe in the interest of the constituency they represent. They are right. And then why do they want us to move back? When, as much as we have not won the election, people who voted for us. And those people did not vote for us to do away with labor laws or review them. They did not vote for us to say that close down the workers and all of that. They didn't. They wanted us to protect. And here is the economy not performing. What do? And we've got now a budget that is balancing everything. that is able to take us forward and take in the interest of everybody. You see, you need everyone and all hands on deck to enable us to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, SG. I am going to indulge you. Newsroom.
Just two quick questions, SG. On the Joburg Council, basically the president introducing that presidential the council not have just been disbanded or dissolved and placed under administration. And the second one, in the Northwest, the Human Rights Commission is holding a public engagement on the scholar transport and the quality of scholar transport there. But the MEC, the ANC MEC for Education was not there. She wasn't present. She went to the start of the Winter Games. This was something that was communicated in advance. Just your thoughts around those two. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to respond without getting the version of the MEC on that matter. Obviously, we'll defend that. There should be cogent reasons why an MEC will not pitch or attend an occasion, an activity like engaging with the Human Rights Commission if she was invited. So if there is negligence and dereliction on the part of the MEC, obviously the ANC must take steps against its deployees which project the organization by virtue of occupying those positions in a bad light. So the ANC must be decisive with regard to that. But what we are not going to do is to basically say something when we don't have all the facts on the table. Obviously, now that it is brought to our attention here, we will make follow-up on that particular matter with regard to the Northwest. The President's intervention working group has worked in the eThekwini, where we have deployed Cyril Kaba and the team there to reverse the decay of the city. There were a number of things that were happening in the city from a technical point of view in terms of infrastructure and so on. We see good signs out of the presidential working group deployed there and people with expertise assisting the city in eThekwini. So that model, it works for eThekwini. It can work for Joburg to support what is happening here. But notwithstanding the fact that this is also a coalition government here in Johannesburg. When I sent a tweet on X and I said the state of Johannesburg started to deteriorate from 2016 when we lost the municipality, everybody was on my case that I'm probably waffling like you are saying about another political party. I was not. I was stating the fact. I mean, the only time where there was stability in this city is when Pakistan was in charge, taking over from Masondo, Braambi, and other mayors. That time, the ANC was in charge. You can blame the ANC that it was in charge. Then came MN Mashaba and Action SA, not Action SA, DA, actually. And then they started to fight within the DA. And then he went to create Action SA. This city was destabilized. And then we went to another election, which we lost. We had to create a coalition and all of that, moving from one coalition to the other. We are now in this where we with other parties and so on. So coalitions have not worked in local government, so to say. They are fraught of, a lot of challenges, coalitions. And that's where we are now with regard to Joburg. So the presidency is prepared to work with Johannesburg to deploy to ensure that we're able to address all the challenges that are facing us in this city. Yeah.